Okay.
So can you state your name, organization, and what you do for a living?
My name is Zana Amin. I'm the co-founder and president of Continual Growth. We help people build healthy habits.
I'm just going to ask you a question here. So after high school, tell me about your journey and how you got here today.
So after high school, I went to university. I did exactly what my teachers and my guidance counselors told me to do, which was get a degree. I got the degree, and then I realized that it's just a fucking piece of paper, and it's not actually going to make me happy or guarantee that I get a job or guarantee that I make any income. So what I would say to, what was your question again?
So high school,
Yeah, so then from there, I went and worked the corporate life for about 5 or 6 years, and then I realized this is just a rat race, and I'm tired of the rat race. I'm gonna go do my own thing, and then I went and became an entrepreneur, and that's where you make money if that's what you want, but that's a different discussion.
Perfect. All right, 2 more questions. What do you know now that you think everyone in high school today should know?
You don't need to know what you want to be or what you want to become or what type of work you want to do in high school. You are barely, you don't even know anything yet. You're still trying to figure out who you are in this world, how you fit in it, and I don't even think you have a clear idea of what your interests are. So what I would say is go and try shit. Go do all kinds of stuff. You think finance is cool, go work in that for a year. You think marketing is cool, work in that for a year. Go travel for a year. Go apprentice for a year. Go and try a bunch of different things so you can find out what you like, and then from that you can make a plan for you to achieve what we call your best life.
Perfect. Last question. What's the best piece of advice you can give to someone looking to do what you do?
I would say if you want to do what I do, get out of your head and get in your heart. And what I mean by that is when you're in your head, all you're going to do is think, and you're going to say a bunch of things to yourself, a bunch of stories to yourself based on what you're thinking, and most of it, if not all of it, is going to be negative and not true. So get out of your head and get in your heart. What I mean by getting in your heart, focus on what you do. Live by one of my affirmations. I am not my thoughts, I am what I do. As long as you focus on what you're doing, what you're not doing, and what you need to do, and you get it done, you'll be a winner.
That's it. Wow, that was really good.
All right.
Really good advice. Thank you.
Toronto. I take going back to. I came to Canada when I was 7 as a refugee from northern Iraq. So I understand what it's like to have nothing, and I know what it's like to grow up in Canada and try to figure out the answers to a lot of life's questions. What I've done in my life, I've done the corporate thing, worked the corporate ladder. I was 27, senior project manager for TELUS. I thought I was killing it, and I was miserable. And I couldn't figure out why. And once I figured out why, and I'm gonna get into that in a few minutes, but once I figured out what it was, I had to create a company that gives people the knowledge that I learned. And a lot of what I figured out is the reason why I was so miserable is because I had really horrible habits. And most people, and I'll get into a lot of those horrible habits, can resonate with what I'm about to get into. So we built a company called Continual Growth. The idea behind the company is, we're gonna switch mics. The idea behind the company is that we help people build healthy habits and then maintain them. Because if you take ownership of your life and responsibility for what you do, then what you do becomes a habit. And if you can make what you do consciously align with your goals, then achieving whatever you want is just a matter of time. So I'm here to share a little bit of that, and I'm really looking forward to it.
But yeah, there's first question here. I can turn this off. I still got to tell you it's on. So, what do you remember from being a teen and a young person, and how does it compare from what you see the youth going through today?
So when I was in high school, you probably all got the same advice that I got, right? Get good grades. If you get good grades, you can go to a good school. If you go to a good school, you can get a good degree. If you get a good degree, you can get a good job. If you get a good job, you'll be happy. What a lie. So when I was 15, I remember thinking from teachers like, you don't look happy. Like I would look at teachers and be like, you don't look happy. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, like, I think maybe I was a little bit more aware than other students, but I would look at teachers and they would say, go to school, get a degree. I'd be like, okay, miss, but did you go to school? And they'd be like, yeah. I'm like, you don't look happy. So I don't know where that advice came from, but I remember thinking, all right, so where I'm at in my life at this time, I was 15, I was broke, I was poor. I grew up from a single mom. My pops left when I was 9. Growing up as a refugee new to Canada, the challenges that you have, the obstacles that you have, sometimes you'll think that it's okay to give that an excuse, right? And when I was 15, I remember thinking like, yo, I'm poor, I'm gonna be poor. This teacher's telling me to go to school, I can't afford 10 G's a year for school. And the thought that I had at the time was that if I don't go to school and everybody goes into school, then I have a disadvantage. So for me going to school, it was my teachers telling me that I needed to go, but it wasn't because I saw the value in it. And I think kids these days, they're smart. They're not like how we were, right? When we were in school, we didn't have social media. We didn't have, the internet was just coming out. A computer was like Windows 98. It was like, you couldn't really do anything, right? So kids these days, they have social media, they're all connected. And kids see what's out there. And they know that school's not the only way. Yeah. It's one way, but it's not the only way. And I think the challenges that kids have that I didn't have, for me it was like, go to school, that's your only option. And I'm confident most people in here probably felt the same way. Kids now, they know that that's not their only option, and that can be frustrating. That's a challenge, because when you have so many options, you almost feel paralyzed to make a decision. And if you don't make any decisions in life, nothing ever happens. And I think what I would say to kids is, don't feel like you have to have the answers at 15. You don't even know anything yet. You haven't experienced life yet, you haven't done anything yet. You haven't had your heart broken, you haven't been fired from a job, you haven't got laid off, you haven't had the horrible things that happen to you as an adult, and you gotta go through that stuff. It doesn't happen to you as a kid, so why plan for a life that you haven't lived yet? And that's pretty much what I would say to like a 15-year-old is, just chill. You'll figure it out.
Well said, well said.
A real rush to make money. Like when you grow up poor, you think that money's the answer, so you work really hard to make a lot of money. When I was 15, I thought that making $100,000 a year was a lot of money. And then I made $100,000 and I realized it's not a lot of money. And the thing that I would tell myself at that time is, focus on becoming a better person before you start working. I think what I did a lot of was try to do things that would help me make more money. I focused entirely on what would help me make more money. What degree could I get that would make more money for me? What school could I go to that would help me get a degree that would help me make more money? What city would I need to live in so that I can make more money? And what I would tell myself at 15 is money's not the answer. I think what I would have said is, I'd try to decide what kind of life you want to live, and then figure out what specific actionable steps you can take to make it a reality. Because I think oftentimes we say stuff like, I want more money, but we don't decide how much. Yeah. We say that we want to live in a certain city, but we don't say where. We say we want a certain job, but we don't say for what company. We don't say for what salary. We don't get very specific. And I think without getting very specific, you can live a very vague life. And if you live a very vague life, you live at the mercy of things happening to you that you feel like, why is this happening to me? Why is this all happening to me? I'm working towards my goals. But if you don't have absolute clarity on what your goals are, and you don't have a reason for doing it, and I'd say the reason's important because there are times when life is going to punch you in the mouth. Something's going to happen, and you're going to be like, what the? You know what I mean? Why did that happen to me? Why did whatever happened happen? And the thing I would say is, life is going to happen. It's going to come, and whatever happens, whether it's your fault or not, how you move forward from that moment is 100% your responsibility. And if you have clarity on where you're trying to go and why it matters to you, then when you do get punched in the mouth, you can keep going forward. Jeez. Right? And so, is that a thing? Yeah. Cool. Poetry. So like I was saying, like you need to have absolute clarity on what you want. You need to have a very clear understanding of why. And then you need to have a specific action plan to get there. And at 15, if you would have told me that, I would have thought more broadly. I wouldn't have said, you know what, getting a degree is the only thing. Once I get the degree, I'm going to be good. Trust me. This degree is what I need to live a life that's going to make me happy. And that is a lie. How many people have a degree here, and how many times do you look at it and you're like, yo, killed it. Right? And you might have a super advanced degree, but what I'm saying by that is like, no, it's for real. Like, what I mean by that is like, we spend so much time and energy for a piece of paper, not realizing that like paper is not what's going to make you happy. It's what you can do with that paper. And if you know that what you're doing aligns with a life that you want, and you have a specific reason for why you want it, you'll get there. It's just a matter of effort. And that's the big thing I would say.
Nice. Doubt and motivation. Those are two huge hurdles and challenges, that people deal with on a daily basis. What are your strategies to deal with these two monsters?
Sure. Okay, so I'll start with doubt first, because I think that was the easiest. So, what is fear? What is uncertainty? What is doubt? Thoughts. What are thoughts? They're not real, right? The average person has between 50 and 60,000 thoughts a day. Sounds crazy, right? If I asked you what were your 50 to 60,000 thoughts, you wouldn't know what they are. A lot of them happen subconsciously, and it's because our brain, the brains that we have, they were designed for human beings that weren't for this world. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you saw a tiger, you're supposed to get afraid. If you were hungry, you're supposed to get food. The way that we were a long time ago is the same brain that we had back then. And now we live in a world where technology is making us all so connected. We don't know that the doubt that we're experiencing is a story that we're telling ourselves. And the stories we tell ourselves come from the things that we think. And if we sit in our thoughts, like doubt, if you start telling yourself, oh man, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I'm not smart enough, maybe it's never gonna work out, those are things you can't answer, ever. So why ask, first of all? But second, acknowledge that it's a thought, and then go back to what you're doing. What you're doing is sitting there, doing nothing, stressing about doubts, about fears, and they're holding you back from taking action. And at the end of the day, taking action is how progress is made in life. So that's the first thing I would say to doubt is realize that it's a thought, and when you're having those situations where you're doubting yourself, look at what you're doing, and look at what you've done. Look back on the last week, the last month, the last year. What have you done? And when you do that, you're like, wow, okay, I'm doing the right things. And when you acknowledge the things that you're doing, you can gain a sense of confidence. And when you gain confidence, you believe in yourself. You feel unstoppable. And you think that you can do anything. I always used to see these YouTube videos where people say, believe in yourself. Okay, well, believe in yourself, how's that going to change anything for me? And I've understood that believing in yourself comes from overcoming doubt. And the way you overcome doubt is by focusing on what you do. Sitting there and worrying and living in doubt isn't going to answer anything. The second question you asked about motivation. So every Monday I always do it on Instagram. I do a story and say, Motivation Monday. Motivation. And this is why. Let me explain, I know. So I think that if you need motivation to get up and do what you know you need to do, there's a problem. The problem is that you think that you can absolve yourself of the responsibility of taking action. Because you have to be courageous to look at what you want to do and say, I'm gonna go do it, but I need motivation. Let me put some music on, right? What if the music isn't there? What if the source of motivation that you look for isn't available? Then you're at a position of risk. All you can do is sit and say, you know what? I'm not doing anything because I'm not motivated. And how many times do people say, I'm not motivated? I wish I had motivation. That's bullshit. If you want something, you have to understand what it is absolutely clearly. And when you have absolute clarity on it, and you have a purpose for why you want it, why is it important to you? Why the fuck do you need motivation? Why do you need motivation to take action if you know that you need to do it? Why do you need motivation to eat healthy? Why do you need motivation to practice good habits? Why do you need motivation to go after your dreams? You don't need motivation. You need courage. And courage is something that's a choice, and everybody has it. Period.
Woo! So talk briefly about one person that you believe changed your life, and how did he or she connect with you?
Okay, so this would have to be my girlfriend Laura. She's in the front row. No, it's not your fault. No, in all seriousness, when I was growing up and up until, I'm 31 now, up until I was about 28, 29, just before I met her, I looked at the world very logically, very black or white, right? I didn't understand what it would be like to put myself in somebody's shoes and understand how they see the world. So then, by doing that, you can connect with somebody, right? I wasn't very good at connecting with people. I lived in a very, like I said, black or white world. And I wanted, sorry, yeah, I made her cry. Yeah, I really honestly did look at the world black and white, and the big thing that she taught me how to feel emotions. She taught me how to cry. Like as a man, we grow up in a world that doesn't encourage that behavior. It says don't do that. No, don't cry, put that away, right? And I think as men, we don't understand that like the world that we live in brings on a lot of emotions. And women are so encouraged to let it out. And they meet with other women and they talk it out. What do guys do when they get together? Yo, bro, what do you got on your fantasy? Right? You play pick up on Thursday? Right? And what she taught me was that it's okay to cry, it's okay to feel, it's okay to understand other people by just putting yourself in their shoes. She's a natural empath, right? And for me, what that's done is I understand so much more about life that I didn't understand before. I used to think that, like, if I can do it, anybody can, right? And I used to really, really believe that, right? And parts of me still does, but what I'm doing might not be what everybody should do. And expecting other people to be able to do what I'm doing because I'm able to do it in my life, it's really selfish. It's really selfish to think that just because you've made it, other people can too. That's like broadly true and like feels good when you say it, but it's not true. And different people have different challenges, and giving people a different approach based on the challenges that they have lets you connect with them and lets you, I think, try to be like a bridge for them. You know what I mean? Like, if you made it, you shouldn't look back at people who haven't and say like, you suck because you haven't, right? Or you can because I have. No, it's more like, all right, what do you want to do? Okay, cool, I understand what you want to do. Why do you want to do it? Oh, you want to do it because you want to make your mom happy, or you want to make your dad happy, or you want to do well for your family, you want to raise your kids. What I would have loved to have as a younger person is somebody connect with me the way that my girlfriend has, so that I could feel, so I could be more than just a robot. And I think a lot of people live in this world where they don't express themselves. They don't show their true character. They don't show what's really happening in their lives. Like, look at what's happening on Instagram, right? Everybody posts their best videos, best pictures, the best highlight reel. And you can pretend like you're living an amazing life, but inside you're miserable, right? And when you're in a competition or in an arena, like social media, where you're competing for likes, for attention, for engagement, that's how they try to spin it, right? What you end up doing is you put more and more fake shit out there. And by putting more and more fake shit out there, you're letting other people think that you're really happy living your life when you're not. And the mistake that I made with social media and the first 28 years of my life, 29 years of my life, I always equated what I was doing as the only way, and if you don't do it my way, then something's wrong with you. And what she taught me is that no, that perspective is wrong. And that perspective is something I lacked. And I lacked it because I grew up as a refugee kid, I grew up like a single mom, I grew up with the pressures of being a man, right? And don't get me wrong, being a woman's way harder, I acknowledge that. I definitely acknowledge that. But I think we try to sometimes minimize how difficult it is for men to express themselves, and what she's done is amplify that and give me a feeling of, it's okay, you should. And since I've done that, I've noticed a change in my friends. I've noticed that they share more. They are open to talking more. And when I ask them like, yo, how you doing? And they say, good, I'm like, no, really, how you doing, right? And I think as men, that's something we need to do more of. And I could not credit who I am as a person today without acknowledging my girlfriend, Laura.
What your actual background is, like the
Education.
no, like your work life.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll give you some context.
And
Yeah. Okay. So, so I went to high school in London, Ontario. I got a degree from Brock University in finance. From there, I went and worked the corporate world. I started out in finance. I realized that everybody in finance, and excuse me if you are in finance, Paul, sorry bro, but most of the financial world to me is a bunch of bullshit. It's the rich taking from the poor. And if you really break down what's happening, that is what's happening. Why does it cost you money to have a bank account?
yeah.
Why? right? I'm sorry, Paul, but so I worked in finance. I hated it. Then I went and worked in marketing because I thought that would be cool, right? I only did that, and I'm like, I don't like this. You need to be creative, and obviously in marketing, right? And I said I'm not going to do that. And then I got into project management. And for me, project management was exciting because I could start a project, I could work with a team, I could deliver on a specific set of deliverables, and we had a purpose for doing it, and there was an end destination that we were trying to get to. That would be the success of the project. And to me, what that taught me was if I could do that for TELUS, installing fiber optic networks and all these other super crazy technical things, why can't you do that with every other aspect of your life? Treat everything that you do like a project. And I think what I would love people to hear from what I'm trying to say is focus on what you do. A lot of what you do, most of the time, is fuck all. And I'm telling the truth, because a lot of people will sit there and say that they want to have a successful life, but they'll sit and swipe on Instagram for hours and hours, or they'll watch Netflix for hours and hours. And the truth is, when you really understand how much you do that, and then you compare yourself to people that are actually chasing after their goals and making it happen, you see the difference between you and them is they're doing shit and you're not. So I don't know if that helped answer the question.
Yeah.
Let me know if I can.
I got a question. Can you get a little bit deeper in that?
Sure. Okay, so, all right, so the reason why I say the power of now, because a lot of times in life, we oftentimes think, and our thoughts go to two destinations, the past or the future. We'll think about the past and we'll say, oh, I wish I didn't say that, I wish I didn't do that, I wish I did this, I wish I could change that, and the reality is that you can't, right? So, forget about the past. And then the future hasn't happened yet. There are many, many different paths that you could take in life, but if you worry about the path that you're going to take, the one that you're taking right now isn't going to get you there. You need to come back to the power of now. And the reason why I say the power of now, because if what you focused on was right now, if you did what you need to do right now to get towards your goals, and you have a clear purpose for why those goals matter to you, then what's the problem? You know what I'm saying? Like it really comes down to what you're doing in the present moment. And I feel like most people are okay with lying to themselves about what they're doing in the present moment. And that's the big mistake that we have with social media. You can put on social media in front of a laptop with a mug and say, grinding, right? Right? And then you go on Facebook or on YouTube and you watch a bunch of other shit. You don't actually do any work. And that's the lie that a lot of people live. And you live it so that you can get likes. So you can put entrepreneur in Instagram bio and people are like, yeah, man, he's grinding, right? And the reason why I say focus on right now, the power of right now, because right now is the most powerful moment in time. The past is gone, the present hasn't happened, the past hasn't happened yet. All that matters is right now. If you focus on what you're doing right now, it's going to add up. And like he was saying, eventually it's going to work out. If you don't tell your significant other what you're doing and why you're doing it, why would they care? And if they don't care about what you're doing, when you're not giving them attention, they're going to feel like you're starving them of attention and prioritizing other things, and you're acting like they're more important, but they're not. They fall in line with a specific destination that you're trying to get to, and you have a clear purpose for why you want to get there. If you communicate that to her or him, or whatever other gender that person is, when you do that, they can buy in. And when they buy in, they'll support you. When you need to work late into the evening, they'll let you. When you need to get up early in the morning, they'll wake you up. When it's time to drive from this side of the city to the other side with a package needs to get to this customer, they'll do it with you because they know it's important. And that comes from communication. If you don't communicate, it's not going to work. Because when you don't communicate, what people will do is resort to the stories that they tell themselves. And the stories they tell themselves will come from thoughts that are based on fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And we'll come back to situations like, oh, he must be cheating. Oh, she must be out there doing something she shouldn't be doing. When the reality is that they're working, they're grinding, they're hustling. And if you explain to them why you're doing it rather than what you're doing, they can buy in. And once you get that buy-in, you're good. You have a teammate. That's what you need. Come up with a code of behavior for how you live your life, right? And what I mean by that is, the type of life that you want, imagine it, right? When you imagine that life, imagine the person that's living it, you, right? The identity of that person. What does that person do, right? If that person goes to the gym 4 times a week, then until you live that life, you need to go to the gym 4 times a week. Figuring out the identity of the type of life you want and the code of behavior that you need to live to exceed that code of behavior. At the very least, meet it, right? And I think the reason I talk about code of behavior is because I'm so big on the things that you do. Oftentimes we look for direction or guidance from other people, like guidance counselors, and we say, hey, tell me what to do. Teacher, tell me what to do. Mister, I guess it's Mister, right? Yeah. Say, Mister, what do you need me to do? Or what can I do? And that's so sad to me because in the era of human history that we're in right now, it's never ever been better to be a human being. Ever, right? And it's sad to me that people don't realize how incredibly gifted they are just to be alive. And when you're alive, you can look at life and you can see what's different from the life that you're living now and the life that you want to live. And a lot of what's missing, that gap, is work that needs to get done. Things need to happen. And those things won't just happen just because of luck, because you grew up in a certain neighborhood, or because you're connected with certain people. Things happen because you take action. When you take action, the universe aligns with that. It recognizes the hard work that you're doing, and it rewards that behavior. So live by that standard, I guess. Woo!